through the 2011 ACS, and more recently 429 counties. We have a city variable that basically identifies the census place. And we use a different protocol for this. Puma boundaries don't line up as well with city boundaries as they do with counties. So we try to do a best guess at which city and try to show cities as well as we can. Thank you. So the first thing we do is we identify the city in which the majority of a puma's population lives. And once we've assigned pumas in this way to cities, we might have 6 pumas that are associated with a city. We will identify that city only if the match between the city and those assigned pumas is a good one. And by that, we use omission and commission error. So you can imagine a city that has 2 pumas assigned. There is an omission error for the city population not in the pumas, and a commission error for the puma population not in the city. When we sum those 2 up, we don't report a city if it's over 10%. That means we identify 184 cities in the through 2011 ACS. And then what happened? 2010 pumas had a new requirement that all pumas had to be based on tracts. Tract boundaries often don't align with city boundaries, so you have a lot fewer identified cities starting in 2012. Right, that's what I just said. So other things that we have available, we have crosswalks between large places and pumas. If you want to figure out which pumas correspond to which cities, we show mismatch errors by cities, both in a spreadsheet and in a separate variable. You can, if 10% is too high for you and you want to limit it to cities that match pumas well, you can use this other variable. Moving on to metropolitan areas, we have 2 variables for that. One goes way back in time. It is our original metropolitan area variable, and it only goes up through the 2011 census. Met 2013 uses the 2013 OMB metropolitan area definitions. So it uses a fixed definition, whereas the original one had a sense that vary with decennial MSA definitions. The ACS code are based on 1999 MSAs because that's what we aligned the 2000 pumas with. Whereas Met 2013 uses this fixed 2013 definition. We had a kind of simplistic way of identifying so that you could end up with no commission errors but unlimited omission errors in the original version. That's not exactly the best way to do it. So we now are using a protocol like I described for cities with a mismatch limit that's a little bit higher, 15%. This allows us to identify a lot of metropolitan areas. I think there's a 388 2013 metropolitan areas. So we get a lot of those, and we get almost all of the 100 largest metropolitan areas. That's in your microdata if you download this variable. And again, we have crosswalks. We report mismatch errors, etc. And for met area, the older variable, we also have a web page where we identify the county composition of each metro and the percent of the metro's population left unidentified. Okay, so we also report metropolitan status. That's a code for whether you're in a metropolitan area or not, or in a principal city or not. And we have a not identifiable code, which covers a lot more people. Because of this change in the PUMA definitions, starting in 2012, we could identify a lot fewer people in the principal cities because PUMAs don't align well with the city anymore. All right, the cons PUMA concept. We have 2 of these. One that spans 1980 to 2011 for the 90 and 2000 pumas and 1980 county groups. And another one that spans 2000 to 2015 for 2000 and 2010 pumas. The older one, again, we used a simpler approach. We just defined it by visual inspection. Do these pumas seem to line up or not? Sometimes there's that results in some bad errors or things that were ignored that needn't have been or should have been. Now we have a very specific algorithm that ensures that all the mismatch errors involve less than 1% of the population. There's a lot of size variability. I'll just show you the map. Some places have a lot of PUMA changes, some places don't. You can see some very large green boxes here. Those are big cons PUMAs. All of South Dakota, for example, most of Massachusetts. But there's other areas where these cons PUMAs are really quite useful. They're small, they're consistent across time. And we have a lot of information on how those are constructed. So just to wrap up here, future plans, we're going to keep providing these geographic variables with future ACS releases. We will extend this MET 2013 concept backwards, so you can also get it for 1990 and 1980. we're going to provide more variables because we're relying too much on trying to match a particular boundary. And sometimes there's continuous variables that tell you as much about metropolitanness and that kind of thing. So we'll provide more variables. And an idea that's floating around and we're doing some research on is synthetic tracts or imputed census tracts, so that you could, for each microdata record, have an estimate of which tract a person lived in, so that you could then attach some contextual information at the neighborhood level to that person. So to wrap it up, some other folks who have helped on this work at the university and our funders.